This is Realigned and Unfiltered.
Together, we're peeling back the layers, exploring consciousness, and transforming life's messiness into meaning. So, welcome back to Realigned and Unfiltered. We are so grateful to all of you who have been watching, liking, sharing, following. We so appreciate everyone's engagement so far, and we encourage you to continue engaging. So, on that note, we thought today, rather than doing an educational episode, we would have a bit more of a conversational episode and one where we really invite viewers, listeners to think about what awakening means.
Mm,
So we referenced awakening in our description of this podcast, right? The awakening process, those who are going through the awakening process. And I think it's really good to stop and define what it is that we're talking about when we're talking about anything. So today's episode is going to be the beginning of a 3-part series on the concept of awakening, because awakening is broken down a little bit. So we'll get into that as the podcast goes, but I have a little definition here that we cooked up that you may begin to start hearing yourself in. So I will half read and half look. So, awakening is the process of beginning to see yourself beyond the systems that you have been shaped by. So, whether that is religious system, family system, culture, politics, education, even inherited ancestral programming or patterns, it's that moment or that series of moments when you realize, hang on a minute.
mm,
Is this identity that I've been living with fully mine?
right. Yeah.
Because awakening isn't really about rejecting everything. It's just about remembering who you are beneath the conditioning. And I feel like this goes along really well with the episode we did, Diana, that you taught us about the subconscious and programming and all of this. Like, what is the programming that has gone into how I live my life?
Right.
And
Yep.
is there need for shifting it? Is there need for moving things around in the warehouse, or even, dare I say, clearing things out of the
Mm,
warehouse? And so that's what this awakening is. It's questioning what's in there, how it got there, and do I want it there?
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think when we talk about the awakening process, right, it's in layers. It unfolds in layers, right? At first, it could feel a little bit destabilizing because the ground that you've stood on, where you've always been, is shaken up, right? Your belief systems, your values, and your sense of safety.
Mhm.
Those begin they begin to shift, and you start having this questioning attitude. So you might start questioning authority. You're
Mhm.
noticing these contradictions in the systems that you were taught to trust,
Mhm.
or you feel that the stories that you've carried and the weight of those stories, they're like, I don't resonate with this anymore.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. And so then this process, you're the one who loves the word process,
I
actually.
know.
It's funny, I'll break it down. But so this process, we believe, has, I mean, if we're going to define it, maybe 3 main parts.
Yeah.
So it has the deconstruction part, and then it has the remembering,
Mm,
and then it has the reconstruction. And so
yeah.
I often hear in this type of conversation, deconstruction, reconstruction.
Hmm.
And I think the secret sauce is actually in the remembering. If I'm not that, then what? And a lot of
Mm,
people jump right to let's reconstruct, but there's a secret sauce in the middle. So today we're going to focus on the deconstruction process, because it's really important to actually spend time with what it feels like, because
yeah.
it's not comfortable. And it's not a one-time event either, this whole awakening thing. I think it's really important to realize that awakening is a lifelong journey of peeling back the layers.
Mm-hmm.
Awakening is a lifelong journey of, like, our ego has identified, and then we say, "Oh wait, but," and we
Yeah.
peel back another layer, and we peel back another layer, and we begin to be a little bit more flexible and a little bit less fixed, a little
Right.
bit more in spirit, and a
Yeah.
little bit less stuck in body, or
Right.
you know what I mean? And yet
Right,
there's an
you have
embodiment.
more behavior. I was explaining it as behavioral flexibility. You have more, like, options are open. right? When you kind of start that deconstruction process.
Yeah. So, awakening can be very disorienting
Mhm.
and it can be very liberating. It's you discovering you without a map, without a compass. And so
Right.
I think what serves well for fellow journeyers of this life and those who are in this process is to hear conversations and to hear examples and to hear people share what it was like for them. I get a lot of clients coming to me, and this is exactly what it is that they're going through. And they're like, if only I had someone to talk to.
Mhm.
I tend to be a great person to talk to, but we want to create more of that.
Right.
And so I feel like this type of topic is really in alignment with what we want to do, which is create space for people to find others to go through this with, right?
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Right. So here we go. I think the first key point, maybe I'll say all 3 points and then we'll go back to point number 1. So the first point is the moment that the cracks start appearing. And the second point is the grief and disorientation.
Okay.
And the third is the body's role in
Mm.
awakening. And not
Oh,
forget our precious, precious bodies.
that's
So
it.
let's go back to the moment the cracks start appearing, because this is when you might start realizing something doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
I'm looking around and I'm seeing what I've always believed, and I'm seeing the people who I've always believed that thing with, and I'm realizing that I'm not actually so sure anymore.
Right. That
Sometimes you don't know why. Sometimes it's just this little shift, right? And then everything starts to unravel. It's like that tiny little thread that you pull.
Mhm.
And sometimes it's like a great big explosion happens in your life, big existential moment, and you're forced to be
Mhm.
at this place. And sometimes, and what we've seen certainly in the last little while, is that a global narrative will shift. I would say we've seen a lot of this in the last 5 years, 10 years, right? You can fill in the blank for which global narrative, which global conversation was the light switch for you. But I think that that's finding its way into a lot of conversations these days.
Mhm. Yeah.
So think it's important that everybody finds themselves in this story, right? Find your own awakening. It's not going to look like mine. I
Right.
mean, maybe it will, but it's going to be your own.
Yeah. Version of it. Everyone has their own version of their awakening process, right?
Right, right. So, like, I have clients who have lived 40 years of their life absolutely fine with exactly how things were and exactly
Mm.
how, who they are. And then all of a sudden they find themselves asking a question and they're like, whoa, what the heck? What happened? Right.
Yeah.
For me, I always kind of had, from a society perspective, a sense of not belonging. So I always kind of would look at everybody on this life track in my society, in my culture, and I would think like, I don't I don't feel the same. So
Yeah.
what I always describe it as is it felt like everybody was wearing the same pair of shoes and walking on the same track. And I kept trying to put my feet in the shoes and the shoes didn't fit. They were very uncomfortable. And then I'd be trying to walk on the track and I just couldn't like stay in the lines. And so, and that was simply like you go to school, you go to university, you get a job, you meet someone, you buy a condo, you upgrade to a house, you have some kids, and all along the way you have your career.
You're right. It's a map very clearly drawn out, right?
It's a clear map. It's a clear map. And I just could not wear those shoes. I
Mm.
just couldn't wear them. And so for me, it was always a little bit like, what's wrong with me? What
Mm.
is wrong with me that I
Yeah.
can't wear those shoes? But I was firmly embedded in other areas of identity, such as my religious system, my religious beliefs, my family connection. I was very firmly rooted in. So I just always thought I was just a little bit weird, like not like everyone else, but that's fine. I guess that's just me. So that's, a teeny little breakdown. So there was always for me this questioning of certain narratives, but not questioning of others.
Okay. Yeah.
And so yeah, we'll get into where then cracks really started forming for me. But so for me, it was little cracks over time, over a long time,
Okay.
little cracks. I don't
Right.
identify, I'm not the same. And then I don't identify, I'm not. And eventually it made its way into where I really did feel like I identified and I really did feel like this is my thing. And then I got
Really
cracked.
cracked.
I got cracked. Um, and so for you though, Diana, it wasn't so much little cracks over time, would you say?
Well, yeah, to some level, I agree, kind of to how it happened for you too. I kind of resonate with that well because I kind of grew up and was raised to where my mind was a little bit more open to things because again, I come from a multicultural background. There's different
Mhm.
things that I was raised in that had my mind a little bit more open to things. So I was a little bit more open minded to some things, but I was still raised very kind of structured in religion and things like that. But the biggest cracking open for me that really kind of shattered was in my adult life when I lost my son through stillbirth. And that was like the biggest crack that kind of, again, I always kind of question and I have these questions, the questioning attitude with certain things. But what really made me dive deep into it was a loss of my son. Because I mean, as you could imagine, when you are pregnant and obviously you are a mother, but when you're pregnant you already have formed in your mind what it is to be a mother, the
Right.
identity of a mother. You've already accepted what that is.
Mhm.
And I lost my son and it fractured all of that,
Yep.
everything that I imagined of what my life was going to be as I moved forward. And the moment that you lose your child, your baby, you lose that version of yourself of who you were becoming, you
Right.
know yeah, the shattering is not just, the grief, but the identity of death, like, who am I if I'm a mother without my baby? How do I exist in the world that doesn't see or understand this invisible motherhood that I'm carrying,
Mm. Mhm.
And what does my future look like now? What does my future even mean now? So
Yeah.
that was like loss just kind of split open my identity, cracked it right open. Even like the before version of me of who I trusted in my life, I couldn't trust anymore. The after the effect of it all was me just starting to question even deeper and wanting to learn more. And it wasn't just, okay, I'm living without my son now. It's like, how do I learn to live as a new person, right? In especially in this reality that I didn't choose. I mean, who would choose something like that, right? So that was the biggest crack open. That was just like
I don't know if I'd call it a crack, more like an explosion.
explosion. Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so we have these cracks where we start side-eyeing our beliefs or we start side-eyeing
Hmm.
the people around us carrying on as if everything is normal and okay and we're like, "Is it
Right.
though?" And we
Yeah.
have these explosions in our life where we have to completely recalibrate and put ourselves back together and you can't ever get yourself back together the way that you once were because you're
Right.
not the same. You're just not
Yeah.
the same. And from the global perspective, I know for a lot of people during the pandemic situation, people realized that their beliefs differed. Their understanding of things differed. They maybe would look at the government and say, hang on a minute, that doesn't make sense. But their
Mm,
neighbor, their mother, their friend was like, absolutely, yes, it does. And suddenly
yeah.
having these fractures
Right.
of, wait, you're somebody I've aligned with my whole life, and now I don't.
Oh
What
my
is
goodness.
this is a government that I have aligned with my whole life, and now I don't.
Mhm.
We won't get into the details of all of that because, again, everybody's version of how this played out for them is their own
Is
and
playing.
is valid,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Right.
But for me, I would say one of the bigger explosions was in that time,
Mhm.
for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
The global narrative shifts. And I would say almost like it was a Harry Potter reference sorting us into different houses.
Absolutely. I mean, people I don't wanna dive deep into this, but to your point, it's just like friendships broke up because of this. Families were divided because of this. I mean, there were so many factors that kind of shattered and cracked people like open to, I don't align with you. I align with you. And they shifted their entire life and everything to kind of because of this event, right?
Right. And here's the trap. Here's the trap. We get
Mm.
we get sorted into our houses. Okay, well, I go here. So now I'm going to align with these people over here and not them. And everybody else becomes the enemy.
Yeah.
Everybody
Yeah.
else is the
Mhm. Right.
and suddenly we just have this new version of an old thing.
Mhm.
We're separate from one another. We have to belong somewhere.
Yeah.
We have to put our stick in the ground. And now it's not just religion. It's not just political party. It's not just now it's, how you think about a certain event. And and we've now seen that repeated over and over and over in the global narrative
Yeah.
with, political situations globally. And so it's dividing and it's dividing and it's dividing. And I think that's a whole other conversation is like the divisiveness of this.
Right.
But if you can, instead of your ego, your sense of identity becoming this new thing, the house you got sorted into during these things, or the
And you
pain of your explosion of loss, or
Mhm.
this, I don't belong here, so therefore I am someone who doesn't belong. If you cannot identify and hold that, but you can just let it actually be the thing that begins the clearing out of your warehouse.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And you brought up ego. And that's where I just kind of want to bring in like the ego, it serves a purpose, right? It is very
For
important. And
sure.
that's what you said, like being able to identify, hey, this event is happening. It makes me question, but the ego is like, wait, hold on. This is what I believe. This is who we are. We can't change, but that's where we say, hey, thank you, ego. You're serving your purpose. We disassociate, right? We are not our ego. We are not our thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
We could disassociate for them and say thank you. This is where now I'm starting to kind of question and take the reins of like where now I'm starting to kind of like realign, right? I mean, it is we are in the deconstruction phase, but when you start questioning and be like, wait, why are you holding on to that ego?
Mm-hmm.
Why? Like just starting with that simple question, like why? Just having that questioning kind of attitude. That's one way where we start the awakening process in addition to the significant events that occur
Right.
in our life.
I actually love this because we're talking about it's when we start questioning the narratives that have been given to us. But
Right,
then we're kind of going into that next layer of then questioning why it is that we want to hold on to it so bad.
right,
Or why
right.
it is that we have a problem with the fact that we're questioning. So we're questioning
Yes,
the outside and then we start questioning the inside.
yes.
It's
Right.
kind of a two layer questioning thing. And I think a lot of the times people get stuck in the questioning outward and get stuck in the finger pointing.
Mm,
And then it becomes a new identity to just like be, you know, fighting whatever that narrative is. And
yeah.
that's the trick. That's the trick is like keep the questioning going and question why does that upset you?
Right.
Why do you want
Yes.
to hang on to it? Right? So it's like it's
Love
these layers of questioning, awakening, layers of questioning. So then I think it's important that we move on then to the second element. I mean, we could talk about that all day, but
yeah.
let's let people stew on that.
Right.
Second layer or the second kind of key point of deconstruction is actually grief.
Mm,
Grief and disorientation. So allowing ourselves to grieve the death of who we were. The death of who I was as a person who loved my religion, was committed to my belief,
mm,
suddenly felt like I gotta ask some questions about
mm,
how I actually feel about this. I gotta ask
mhm.
some questions about some of the things that were sold to me that it just hit me in the face or it hit me in the heart or it hit me in the gut. That doesn't sit well.
Yeah. And there's a
Right.
lot of there's so much grief associated with that because when you start those questions and you start realizing like, oh, there is this like feeling and maybe this is what you resonate with is like, but this is what I grew up with. And
Yeah.
this is what I and if I disconnect from this, I'm disconnecting from maybe my family in a way, or like, I don't know
For
if
me,
you've
yeah. For me, I mean, so this is it, right? We start with the confusion and the sadness and the fear, and then we realize my safety, my connection. So much of what we believe
Mhm.
is because that's what was given to us
Yeah.
often. by our parents, by our families, by our neighborhoods, by our cultures, by our religion. We're born as little babies into a little micro system, a little environment. And we're kind of given everything. Like here's what we believe and here's what we think and here's what we do. And we just take it and carry along. And at some point, for whatever reason that we already discussed, there's some questioning. And what happens when we question and we start to think like maybe this isn't for me or maybe it isn't for me in this way is then the reason why I latched on to my belief system so tightly was because it was so interwoven in my family's experience and my
Yeah.
family's identity. So if I
Right.
detach from that or question that or no longer believe that, do I still have the connection with my family? Do I still
Mhm.
have safety? Is my secure attachment secure? Or do I risk losing that?
Right.
For sure, that was the question that happened to me. For sure it was. And it was really terrifying because I have
Yeah.
a beautiful family, very
Right.
safely, securely attached family who love me and I love them. And yet, do I lose any of that when I step outside of what was given to me?
Right.
You know,
Right.
there's fear and there's grief. And no matter what, who I once was is gone now.
Right. Right.
Even if I'm just a person who's questioning, I'm no longer the person who's firm and rooted in exactly what I believe. Now I'm this floating around in the ether person going, "Whoa, whoa, what do I believe?" And
Yeah.
that's part of the death cycle that we find and we'll talk so much about throughout this podcast. So for me, it was grief in the loss of myself, in the loss of my identity that was very wrapped up in that little microculture that I lived in that
Yeah.
meant a lot to me.
Right.
And
Right.
for you, I think grief and disorientation in another way.
Right. Yeah. And I'll keep it in that realm for me because I mean, to your point, one moment life has meaning and has direction and it's very familiar and it feels safe and good. And then the next, that whole structure just collapses and you're like, oh my gosh, there's so much associated with that. And for me, it was the loss of my baby, all the moments that, would have been um my past expectations, like what I thought was gonna happen and the future hopes of what I was looking forward to.
Mhm.
And when I think about that, it left the present moment that I was in feeling very hollow, very empty. And then there was a lot of disorientation that comes along with that, right? You don't know now what map to follow. The map of life is no longer there. There is nothing for me to go by. And then, I always related back to neuroalchemy because our brains are consistently seeking the patterns and
Yeah.
the things that we're familiar with, right? The things that we've set and really structured in our mind as like, no, we're thinking this way, we want to believe this way and go this way. But after all that, we disrupt the pattern, right? We've disrupted it all.
Yeah, that's such a good way of putting it. The pattern has been disrupted, so now what?
Right. And nothing feels familiar anymore. So you're waking up, like for me, it's like you're waking up in the same body, right? You're in the same house, you're in the same body, in the same world, but at the same time, everything has changed, right? Everything has changed around you. And so, yeah, it was very disorienting for me because, again, like the days, they seemed like a blur. I would wake up not seeing, not really feeling like, wait, is this actually my life right now? Like, wait, did this actually happen? Like it was those hazy mornings and the simplest decisions that just felt impossible. And going back to work and facing things that I was like, gosh, life is just going on, and I need to learn how to go on with it. And I'm just so still disoriented with where I'm at in my life. I don't know what direction I need to be going in, and it just
Yeah.
felt kind of like impossible at that time.
Right. And grief in the literal sense of I've just lost a
Hmm.
person. I've just
Right.
lost my child. Or for some people, I've lost my friend. I've lost my mother. I've lost, right? Grief in the actual sense really does just
Yeah.
destabilize and disorient you because you have to figure out now how to live with that loss and nothing will ever really quite feel the same again. And then there's the grief of who you thought you were and who you
Yeah.
were becoming is now lost. And yeah, so it's this external and internal grief, external and
Right.
internal grief.
Yeah. And even relating it back to what, the bigger picture, like world events and things on how families and friends got separated, there is that. It's the grieving of who we thought maybe that person was that
Right.
had the same, belief, or the friendship that we had is now no longer because you're going completely one way and going completely another way without how we think about this. And it's like the grieving of that too. I mean, there again, everybody's version of the awakening process and the dismantling and the disruption of it all is different, but it's still those steps. It's the dismantling and the disruption of what it is when you're going through this awakening
Yeah.
process.
Yeah. And then the ground that you always stood on no longer feels firm. It's just had an earthquake. I mean,
Yeah.
the the government that I thought that I could trust just pulled the rug out from under me because I watched them do unthinkable things.
Yeah.
Or on the other end, right, the I watched them do unthinkable things. It really depends on where you landed there, and it ultimately doesn't matter. It's the fact that it's the destabilization that you experience that we're talking about here.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then the third element of deconstruction that we want to talk about today, because I think really probably we could get a lot of feedback on there's this element, there's that element, but the
Yeah.
body's role in the awakening process. Right.
Oh.
What role does the body play in the awakening process? We don't give enough attention to our bodies, I think, a lot of the time.
No.
I think either we give attention to our body because it's cracking or it's hurt or something, or we just kind of or it's hungry, or we just kind
Right.
of don't. It's just sort of like this vehicle that we're walking around
Right.
life in. And until it starts talking, we don't always pay attention.
No, and until it's talking really loudly is when we actually start paying attention, right?
Doing something right. And so I have again and again and again and again and again met with people who their awakening actually really significantly grew when their body let them know
Mhm.
enough is enough.
Mhm.
Their body woke up. So a health crisis can often be a doorway for awakening,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
A role or something occurring in our body that is a major event, a major kind of diagnosis or whatever, it's significant. That's what when something is very significant in our life, we start filtering that way, you know, and
Yep.
start thinking everything that way and like, oh, okay, now I need to pay attention.
Right. Right. Now I need to pay attention. And wouldn't it be cool if we began to conceptualize our body as a communicator, a key
Mm,
communicator for our soul's experience? Like I talked about earlier, and I think my other episode, I believe I'm a spiritual being having a human experience. And
mhm.
extremely necessary to this human experience is this human body.
Right.
So why am I ignoring her? Right? Like, why do I just figure she's along for the ride or she's just something for me to criticize or have a problem with? Right?
Mhm.
Look at the wrinkles, like my boobs are sagging, I have a problem with her aging. And yet she's so much more than that. She's actually a mouthpiece for my experience here. So
Mhm.
when
Mhm.
people start to pay attention and start doing, the questioning, often it's when they notice that their nervous system is super dysregulated, but they don't really
Yeah.
know why. They don't
Right.
know. I got a lot of people coming to me like, I got all this anxiety and I don't really know why. Right. And we start digging into the body and what the body's trying to tell you. People will
Right.
experience burnout. What's burnout? Burnout is your body saying, I can't do anymore. I can't keep going. You need to slow down. And so then you have to start questioning the narrative of why you're pushing so fast, why you're
Mhm.
so hard.
Right.
Illness a lot of the time. Hey, you're not treating me well. I'm over
Yeah.
here, right? Pay attention. Or the body is actually trying to work out what's happening for you energetically or
Mhm.
spiritually. So for
Yeah.
me, when I started questioning certain narratives, when I started poking holes in my belief system, I actually experienced a huge upset in my physical body and was immediately diagnosed with an autoimmune disease because of the
Mhm.
amount of pain my joints were in and the amount of exhaustion that suddenly came over me and
Yeah.
hair loss and just all that out of nowhere,
Yeah.
except not out of nowhere because it was happening alongside these holes that I was poking in my belief systems. And it was
Mhm.
happening alongside a global situation of unrest where I
Mhm.
had to start redefining myself. It was
Yeah.
happening alongside all of that, but all I saw was my body's betraying me.
Right. 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 Right.
And
Right.
I had someone very wise say to me, "What if your body is not betraying you? What if she's just asking you to pay attention in a new way?"
Yes. Yes. Stop fighting the signals and start listening. Right.
Yeah, and that for me is where I pause my version of this story because the next episode will be about remembering and coming home to the self. And for
Yeah.
me, my body was my pathway, but it was significantly painful to get my attention.
Yeah.
And for
Yeah.
you, Dee, how was your body in the awakening?
Well, I mean, it was just that. It was when I stopped again trying to fight and overrun, with either distractions or like things that I was just trying to do to I mean, I had things that were also manifesting in my body like rashes all over, things that were just
Ugh.
my stomach, things that I was not paying attention to. I mean, I went on a 28-day juice cleanse because I was just like, okay, that's when I started really trying to pay attention. Like my body's telling me something. And
Yeah.
I really started that's more on the end of when I started kind of, okay, pay attention to it. Things were happening physically, manifesting that I was experiencing and I just realized I can't ignore this. Like the tension in my body
Mhm.
is a mirror that I need to start paying attention to.
Yeah.
It's thinking about it like identifying the resistance that I'm having at the same time that I didn't yet understand, right? I didn't understand it yet.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the purpose of embodiment is so, it can't be overlooked. Going into your body and making friends with it, going into your body and realizing it
Mhm.
is your partner. It isn't, it doesn't define you like we're, often sold. Your body is you.
Yeah.
How you show up in the world, how you look, that doesn't mean that's who you are, but coming into a new relationship with your body allows for so much information to come forward. It
Yeah.
allows you to, like you said, I love that you said it like it's a mirror. And if you look in the mirror, what is it telling you? What is it
Yeah.
showing you? What is it
That.
asking you to see?
Mhm. Mhm. And when I learned to start trusting my body, and this is every day. I mean, it's a day by even today. Yes, at that moment in time for me when I went through, my the biggest cracking open, but learning how to trust my body, I realized it was guiding me to my awakening, right? It was guiding me like how you mentioned like, just every all the pain I was feeling or the things that were manifesting on my skin and my stomach and all that kind of stuff, it's kind of like thinking about it like your initiation. Welcome to your initiation,
Welcome to
right?
your initiation. It hurts here.
So it's the ability to kind of just like reframe the way I was looking at it, right? Like again, here we go. Things are happening to me.
Mm.
And look at my body. It's like, it sucks. I hate it. It doesn't work. It killed my baby. Now it's just giving me more and more problems. It's just like I could have
Ooh.
continued so deep with that thought process and reinforced it and gone deep within it. And I think I want to be very careful here because I mean, there's the grieving, right? There's a different parts of the grieving where you're angry and all that. And that is tied very deep into this for me as, going through an actual loss of somebody in my life, my baby, but also um the role in all of that to get on the other side of it, right? And so being able to get onto the other side of it after, I think again, this is not trying to bypass grief when
Yeah.
you're going through like this. I think it's very important to call that out. It's not I'm not saying that. I'm saying you go through that and then after a certain point period of time there's a decision that you have to make, okay, right? Like, okay, I mean, there's no timeline to grief. There's no timeline to that. But at a certain point in time, you're going to start thinking, okay, now this is my life. This is the acceptance of the reality of what life is now
Mhm.
for me.
Mhm.
And I need to make a choice with how I'm going to move forward. So I could continue to think and see like everything that's happening to me in my body as poor me
Right.
and with the victim mentality, or we're always going to jump back to this maybe at some level this is happening for me,
Yep.
right?
That's our favorite line.
Yeah,
We can shift from "this happened to me" to "this happened for me," but not in a bypassy way,
right.
right? Not in a we have to sit with and hold and experience and be with the emotions and the feelings and the experiences. But we have to ask ourselves the question, do I wanna sit in the "this happened to me" place forever?
Mhm.
Or do I wanna transcend to "this happened
Mm.
for me"? What's the alchemy that I can pull
Mhm.
out of this experience? And really, sometimes it does take going pretty deep into the victim hole or going
Yeah.
pretty deep into the grief space, and
Mhm. Absolutely.
it takes listening to other people's conversations or taking somebody's hand and helping them or letting them help you and pull you out. We need each other.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, what if we move from to me to for me? Then what?
Yeah. 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 And I think that when we learn that our bodies are teaching us to honor what's happening in real time, right? Our bodies are trying to teach us what's happening real right now in the moment, because you do also have like a physical reaction and the tension and the everything that's happening and you're holding on to the nervous system, and at the same time learning how to kind of surrender to the transformation of it all and
Yeah.
coming out on, okay. Yeah, just like the process of like, okay, now how can I kind of transmute and alchemize this? But there's a moment of like, again, to that surrendering of it all, and understanding like my body is not against me.
Mhm.
Let me work,
Yeah,
right?
and I think we can even apply that mindful self-compassion process to it that we talked about.
Yeah.
So if we apply that mindfulness element, right? So paying attention to the present moment on purpose without judgment, something hard happened.
Mm-hmm.
Something horrible happened.
Mm-hmm.
What we're not doing is we're not judging it. We're just
Right.
being with it. And
Mm-hmm.
allowing ourselves to just be with the thing that happened without judgment is coming into an acceptance of that thing. Okay, that thing happened.
Right.
I What
Yeah.
we resist persists, says my psychological grandfather, Carl Jung. What we resist persists.
Mhm.
And if I keep resisting it and saying why and it's not fair and it shouldn't have happened, the pain of it will persist.
Right.
But if I sit with it and I
Uh-huh.
allow it to be true without judgment, then it can begin to move.
Right.
Then it can begin to move. And what if I connect with other people who have also experienced this thing?
Right.
Then I'm not
Yeah.
so alone. And what if
Right.
I actually apply some encouragement to myself, some support, some kindness to myself? What if I create a compassionate, I walk alongside you thing, vibe to this pain? Then what? Oh, well, then I can do something with it.
Right. Yeah.
And so the doing something with it, the coming
Yeah.
home to myself. Myself is not a scary place. My body is not a scary place. The warehouse that I'm cleaning out right now is not a scary place. What if I come home to myself?
Mm-hmm.
And what if I just hold all of it because I'm not my thoughts and I'm not my
Right.
feelings and I'm not even my beliefs? Those are all things that I can hold in my hand and look at and decide, do I want to keep carrying this with me? Okay, so this is really tying us into where we want to talk about coming home to the self and finding remembering. And so I think for sake of time, we're going to leave that for the next conversation.
Yeah.
Was there
And I
anything
want to
you wanted to tie in there still?
yeah, the only thing that I wanted to tie in there before we end this episode is the reminder of that awakening doesn't just happen in the mind alone, right? Yeah, a big part of it is how we're thinking and why we're thinking and the questioning of all of it. But tying it back to the physical body is that it happens in the flesh too, right? We are here having a human experience for a reason.
Right.
And so the body becomes kind of like that compass, right? It becomes it's speaking to me too. You're having thoughts, you're having things going on in the mind and in the spirit, but you're also bringing it back to like, I'm a human here having this experience and my body's going to speak to me too,
Ooh,
right?
I really love that what you just said. The body becomes the compass. Because we had at the beginning said we're sort of in this state now where like there's no map and there's no compass and
Right.
what is happening and who am I? And what if the process of coming home to your body and learning how to listen to your body allows your body to become your compass?
Mm,
Certainly, I will agree with you there that when I experienced the autoimmune disease and the pain and I had to completely turn my life upside down in order to heal and give my body exactly what it wanted and take everything away that it didn't. My beautiful body really wanted me to upend everything that was happening inside of it. And I did that. And slowly but surely, the pain went away, the inflammation went away, my markers all got clear. That's a story maybe I'll tell one day in full. But every once in a while, my
mhm,
wrists will hurt, or my
mm.
elbows will hurt, or my stomach will get not okay. And instead of, no, not again, I go, my compass is talking. I tune into my wrists. I tune into my elbows. I say, oh, okay, what's going on? What do we need to know?
Right.
What do we need
Right.
to know? And it is the connector for me to what is right and what is true and what's kind of gotten into my system that I need to clear out.
Yeah. And paying attention to when the body's speaking is a practice, right? Because we're so used to ignoring it too, right? And so it is the whole mindful self compassion, right? And being mindful and aware of what's actually going on.
Yeah.
So I think this is great to kind of like end here so we could transition into like, okay, now what? Now that we are kind of been cracked open
Grieved,
and
been
we've
disoriented,
grieved, been disoriented, right?
recognized our
Uh,
body's role.
right.
Yeah.
Now what?
Now what? Great
Uh,
question. Now what? So, we're going to leave you with that, I think, listeners and watchers. We're not asking you to just listen to our stories. We're asking you to listen to your own. And then ask yourself, are you feeling scared? Are you
right.
feeling grief? Can you be with those emotions? Can you hold them in your hands? Just be
Hmm.
with them. Don't try and ask them to go away. Don't judge them. Don't
Right.
do anything. Just hold them. Can it be okay to hold them until
Yeah.
next week?
So make sure you tune in and write in the comments, maybe where you're at in your process. Are you in any one of these three elements that we discussed today?
Mm-hmm.
We'll comment back, we'll respond, and we'll be connecting.
Absolutely. Yeah. I hope that this is an episode that allows people to start thinking about when did I start questioning what
Mm,
was going on? How did it feel? Have I started questioning? Do I want to question what's going on? How do I feel? And yeah, maybe just hit us up in the comments and let us know any little answers. Begin a discussion. We want these discussions to happen because we want everybody to know that they're not alone. Well, thanks for tuning in this week to Realigned and Unfiltered. This was great, Dee. It's so nice having these conversations with you. And we look forward to seeing you next week.